Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association. And tonight we have a new member, Mr. Kelvin Simmons. Kelvin, welcome to the show.
Hey, my pleasure to be here with you, Carlos. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your businesses, not plural community.
Well, first and foremost, let me just say this. I'm a born and raised native of Kansas City, Missouri. Basically born and raised at 41st and Mungal. I spent the first 50 years or so of my life in the 64130 zip code. Everybody knows what that is. You can trace me back to going to preschool at Carver, to kindergarten at Ladd, Martin Luther King, Mary Homer Weeks, and I'm a graduate of Passaic High School. So that ought to should tell everybody, you know, about where I come from and where I grew up. It's straight east side of Kansas City, where I'm proud to be an east side native and proud to have lived so many years of my life there, along with my parents. Between the two of us, we've probably spent more than 60 years in 64130.
Now, since you went that route, I usually ask you to go from kindergarten, but you already knew the program. Talk about some of the influences that made an influence in your life, some of the mentors that helped you become who you are coming up.
Well, you can't start talking about me unless you start talking about my parents. My parents were my biggest influencers, my mom and my dad. Because I was an adopted child, adopted by my paternal grandparents.
I'm the cutoff king. My people nosy. They want to know their names.
It was Inez and Thurman Simmons.
Shout out from the baby boy.
Yes. And so Inez and Thurman Simmons basically were my biggest influences. My dad, who worked at General Motors Leeds plant for 33 years at that plant. He was one of the first African Americans that basically came along and influenced the beginning of the unions and Black people getting in the unions. He was one of the first cats to come along and do that with all the other African Americans that were over at General Motors who couldn't get in the union. So, you know, it was segregated at one point in time. And so over a period of time, they were able to bust down those doors and do that. And those 33 years that he spent there basically gave me a foundation for my ability to go on to college, my ability to do a number of different things, the sacrifices that he and my mom made. She was simply a homemaker working for rich folks on the west side of town. And they were blue collar workers, just straight blue collar workers. And so those influences gave me the work ethic that allowed me to work harder than anybody else. Everybody knows if you're competing against me, you better, you know, work a whole lot harder than what you think, because I'm not going to go to bed until the job is done. And when I get up early in the morning, it's going to be earlier than you.
All right. That's one of the fundamental keys to success. I think on another note, I think the younger generation, and when I say younger, 25 and under, they don't really get it, how hard you have to work to be successful. All right, so let's talk about your companies.
Yeah. So a number of companies. First of all, I have a company which is the Nexus Group LLC. It is a government relations lobby shop. It's statewide. It is one of the top 10 lobby firms in all of the state of Missouri. My partner and I, he's over in St. Louis and I'm in Kansas City. We are a certified minority business company. And again, I said that we are one of the top 10 firms probably in the entire state of Missouri. When you look at our laundry list of clients that we actually work for, it'd be amazing that you find an African-American company that's certified that has a laundry list of companies like ours. From Fortune 50 companies in the United States of America to billionaires. I won't be able to say their names, but we represent a variety of people, organizations, corporations, and companies that are the largest in all of the United States, and particularly in the state of Missouri. So that's company number one. We formed that company about 4 years ago after we left the Denton's law firm. The Denton's law firm, if you did not know, is the largest law firm in the world. And when I say the largest law firm in the world, it has more than 10,000 attorneys. It is in more than 50 countries. More than 70 languages are spoken with the Denton's law firm. And so we left that public policy group in the law firm where I was a principal in that firm. And we formed our own lobby and governmental relations firm about 4 years ago. And so it has taken off and it's been very well. We do very well down in Jefferson City. Most people will see me down there between Tuesdays and Thursdays, or they'll see me at the city of Kansas City or some city in America where there's an intersection of business and government. We're probably there.
Let's go to your next company.
Next company, Avenir Group LLC. That's a real estate development firm that does development work. It's doing development work in Kansas City. Some of the biggest projects that I'm involved in right now in Kansas City is on 18th and 19th and Vine, our historic district. Right now, we've got an 80-unit apartment complex with retail on the bottom. It's the first of its kind in Kansas City. Construction is on the way and underway. It's at 1900 Vine Street. It's on the eastern side of that street. Some of you would know at one point in time, if you're from Kansas City, that's where the old Blankenship beauty supply company used to be. We're right there constructing those 80 units and retail on the bottom with the parking garage that'll go along with it. That's the first kind you'll see, likely on the east side in Kansas City, 9th Street on the north, 63rd Street on the south, Cleveland to the east, Paseo to the west. There's probably not another, apartment unit quite like that one. $25 million structure, it's what it's going to be. And that's going to be phase one of 3 phases of projects that my firm will be partnering with in a joint venture relationship with other individuals.
Just curiosity, off the top of your head, how many parking spaces will you have?
Probably a little more than 60. Some that will be right behind it, some on the side with a covered, and then we'll have some at the very, some spots on the street so that our retail customers will be able to access right there off the street. But it'll be the first time you'll see covered parking in an apartment complex on the east side. There's not another one like that.
When is the completion date approximately?
So usually it takes about 16 months for these to be completed. We just started moving dirt within the last 3 weeks. And so when you look at we're March of 2022 right now, I would expect somewhere around June or July of 2023 for us to be ready to start moving people in, God willing.
How many jobs do you feel that this project will create?
So there's the permanent jobs, and then there are the construction jobs. On the construction side, when we're fully, engaged and fully moving, you'll have somewhere between 40 to 50 jobs that'll be taking place at that time. Once it's constructed, you'll have what we would say is about 3 jobs per 2,000 square feet on the retail side. So you're going to be about 22, 23 jobs, and that's on the retail side. You'll have some of those jobs that will be permanent job with respect to the housing. Have somebody that will be the maintenance person, somebody will be the lease up person, and then somebody else will handle some of the day-to-day things. But you'll probably get anywhere between 25 and 30, which will be permanent jobs. And then again, I've already talked about 40 to 50 on the construction side jobs.
What type of rent will be associated with that?
So the first thing I would tell you is this is a market rate product that we are putting in there. And what we call it is market rate attainable, affordable. And so what that means, quite frankly, is it's affordable to the community, it's attainable by folks, but it's market rate. It's not low income. We didn't use a low income tax credit to make it that way. Sorry if you're going to get a bark in the background.
That's all right.
But the other part of that, what I want to say, quite frankly, is that you'll have one bedrooms on our affordable 60% AMI that's going to go for $795 per that one bedroom unit.
That's
then you'll
not
have
bad.
no, it's not bad. It's great. Actually,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact.
right. Yeah.
And then we'll have the one bedroom that's not what you would call the affordable one, and it will be a similar square footage, a little more, things that it'll have there, but that'll be about $895.
I was thinking $1,200 or $1,000, really.
Well, when I get to my two bedrooms, that's when you get there. But this is what I'm going to say. It's affordable and it's attainable in our community on the east side of Paseo. I don't say Troost no more. Troost got erased now.
Mm-hmm.
So on the east side of Paseo. But if you literally take 1900 Vine, where I'm at, and you go 1 mile to the west, which will be 1900 and Oak Street, you'll find a new development that's there. That one bedroom that you'll find over there is $1,400. 1 mile to the west.
Yeah, but hold it. That's why I was saying, I was thinking more like 1,200 or what have you, because I'm looking to move and what have you. And I'm saying it's through the roof. And my next question is, how do you feel that's going to affect that area?
Well, the first thing is we have a number of what you would call low-income housing apartments or senior apartments. And when you get too many of those without a mixture of income, without a mixture of market rate, then you're really oversaturating that market with low income. We want 18th and Vine, as it moves towards a different dimension in this particular century, to have a mixture of income where people of all walks, of all lives can be a part of it, not just low income.
Right, all income, social, and all of that. That makes for a healthy neighborhood in general.
Absolutely, you onto something, and that's what we were thinking, is that we want a healthier neighborhood. We want to have what you call neighborhood retail to go along with that, but you have to add the density around 18th and Vine, because we don't have the density and you don't have that disposable income, which allows you to bring a better product of retail into the mix of 18th and Vine. And so when you look at the last 25 years or so and you don't find any retail there, well, largely it's because you don't have that disposable income of a residential mix that's not just low income. So when you've got a retailer that looks at this, they don't say, well, you know what, it'd be nice, but I think maybe a Dollar General is what you want.
Oh,
you know what? Out of it.
Hey, I'm the cutoff king. You took the words out my mouth. I was getting ready to say, oh, well, you don't want the dollar store. It's not like you don't want the dollar store people, but you've got to have the people that can go to Costco's, can go to other places, and the mixture. You got you, and that a lot of times our community, when you start talking about market rate, I'm just being real, they don't really understand. All they can see is you're Black and you're developing in our community, and why aren't you giving affordable housing?
Yeah. And what we say is we're giving affordable, attainable, market rate housing. My definition of market rate versus the definition of market rate on the west side of town, it differs tremendously. But I understand that market rate with my people and what they're willing to pay,
or
and
what we're willing to pay.
Yes, or what they can afford to pay. It just takes somebody creatively understanding that mix as a developer, and then being able to create a capital stack that allows you to get this in the ground and pay for it. If you can do that because of your creativity and your innovation, then that's what developers do, particularly if you're doing it in our community for our people, which is exactly what my whole thing is about.
Do you have another company?
Yep. Launching what you would call the R&K concession services, which is really geared towards airport concessions. I am affiliated with a firm and a group that just won the KCI concessions contract. So for the next 15 years, they'll be out there on the food and beverage side. We'll have a joint venture relationship with that group. And so I'm looking forward to what I would call interacting with the 18th and Vine establishments that will be out at the airport, so that in 2023, when it opens for everybody in March of 23, it's also going to coincide with the NFL draft. That when people come here and they get off that airplane, and for the first time they're seeing that new airport, they'll be able to go to a few places and it'll be 18th and Vine related. And then they hopefully will want to say, now while we'll see it at the airport, let's go down to 18th and Vine and actually participate in the original. And that's what's going to be really cool in March of 2023.
I was so happy that I like to thank one of my close friends, Eric Wesson, and Nicole was able to get a spot out there at the airport. I think that's going to be productive. As you said, let's come into town. Let's see what's going on. We see what's going on out here.
Yeah.
Is there any hope for more money coming down there that is going to change some of the other things that are going on Vine besides what you're doing? Can you talk about some of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm affiliated with a number of joint venture partnerships, where one right now that I can tell you at actually 18th and Vine. The city of Kansas City put out an RFP, that's a request for proposal, in June of 2020. A firm that I was working with and a joint venture relationship with actually responded to the RFP July of 2020. We were selected in October of 2020 to be the developers of the 18th and Vine area. We have basically been at this for quite some time. In the last 90 days, the city of Kansas City finally got around to doing a development agreement with us. And so now we can move forward. And in moving forward, we would do a development at 18th and Vine by preserving the buildings that are there now, which were what you would call historic preservation building. There's the old House of Hits. There's the Roberts building. For some of us that have been around for a while, I mean, my mom, who was I guess she was class of 1947 at the RT Coles, probably remembers going down there at one point in time. But we're going to preserve those buildings while we create other buildings around it to give 18th and Vine a feel that it needs once again to make something happen down there. So that's going to be taking place. We hope to be under construction as soon as possible. We're putting the financing together. We're working with the city of Kansas City. Today, it calls for probably anywhere between 55 and 80 new units of housing, probably over 30,000 square feet of commercial retail, a parking garage. And so that's what you're hopefully going to see, retail and commercial that'll be down there. And that's so that you get foot traffic and more density. And, you know, you have a better entertainment, but we've not moved beyond the thought that it's an entertainment and neighborhood, and not just an entertainment district. People want to say, oh, you know, it needs to be any. No, well, you know, we're not trying to be Bill Street. 18th and Vine is a community. It's a historic community, and it's a neighborhood, and it just so happens to have entertainment, and it happens to be historical. And, you know, we want to preserve that so that at the end of the day, we're not becoming something that we're not. We're distinct, we're authentic, and we are who we are. We don't want to be somebody else.
You know what? I think, boy, you have a hell of a presentation, but I think that part that you just tapped into is something that's really different. And to have a developer like you that really understands. Yeah, we want the development, we want the glitz, but it's a neighborhood. I grew up in this community. I'm not just trying to come in and be the carpetbagger. I'm trying to do something that has a even keel where the commercial, the residential, and we come somewhere in the middle to have a great community that looks good, that's kept up. And I don't think you can do that unless you have that market rate piece in there to get the proper attention to whatever you're doing on a long-term basis.
So Carlos, I mean, that's essential. And like you said, I'm not a carpetbagger because I've already explained and described where I come from and who I am. As they say, I'm Inez and Thurman's little boy. And so everybody knew, hey, Inez Thurman's little boy came off 41st and Mungo. At the same time, from an experience standpoint, I'm the only Black man in the United States, or the only Black man, I should say, in the state of Missouri, that's ever been the director of economic development for the state of Missouri. And when you say that for the state of Missouri, the state's, entire business plan was in my hands. And so when it comes to the incentives, subsidies, understanding development from a state perspective, I think I got that one on lock. The other thing that I think I'm going to say is I was the president and CEO of Swope Community Builders when the shops on Blue Parkway opened. So I know a little bit about how retail is developed and how successful when you look at that today. I'd like to say I'm a part of that, understanding that I stood on the shoulders of a person like, Chuck at that particular time, who was
Jackson is who he's talking about. That's my main man, that Chuck Jackson.
I stand on his shoulders. And then today, in the same place was Emmett Pearson, who has it today. He's doing a fine job. Emmett and I work together, but we stand on Chuck's shoulders. So when I say, shops on Blue Parkway, that was Chuck, that was Frank Ellis, that was, anybody that was a part of that. I was blessed to be there at the right time when we opened it and then continue to support it. And I absolutely love what it's doing today. But I bring that background into what we're talking about so that people don't think, well, man, we hear it's going to get gentrified. Man, we hear this, that, and the other. Ask me. And I'll tell you, just like I'm telling you right now, here are the plans. Here's what we're trying to do. And I've been working at this for quite some time. And so now we're breaking ground. Now we're starting to move. And all I need the community to do is, hey, come go with us. We're on a ride right now. And we know that at the end of this ride, we want something that's special. Now, let me just be honest real quick. 18th and Vine and all of the minds of Kansas Cityans, particularly those that have known 18th and Vine, love 18th and Vine, read about 18th and Vine, and some of us loved 18th and Vine to death. And the point that I'm trying to make is, in our minds, it's big. In our minds, it's huge. But it is a relatively small place. And so trying to develop at 18th and Vine and bring something so large of life to all of us is quite a monumental task. You can do the very best you can, but it still probably won't be good enough for most people. But let's go on this ride together. Let's enjoy it together, because we're really trying to do something special there. And I don't want the embarrassment that I call for the last 22, 23 years, when you stand on the western corner of 18th and Vine and you look towards your west and you look towards your south and nothing is there, hasn't been there. We've torn down more buildings than we've built. Guys, it's time to do something different, because we know if you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, people say that's insanity. I agree.
I tell you this, I think in closing, I think that was really valuable if the people are listening. Over a quarter of a century, they've been trying to do something with Vine, and it really hasn't caught. And I wish you the best of luck myself, because that's a real game changer for the entire Black community, whether you're in the 3rd district or the 5th district. And then to add the cherry on top, if you pull this off, that's going to be major for the major Kansas City community, because they're going to feel more at ease coming down in that area. And that means dollars and cents, which is economics. And it's a win for everybody.
Well, one of the things I said, Carlos, I love doing things that nobody has done. I love trying to construct things that nobody has thought to construct, because it's thought to be impossible. And so one of the things that we've already done there that has never been done is we put the first CID in place. That is a community improvement district. That's a special tax that goes on when people come and they buy something. There's a penny that's set aside. It goes into a pot whenever the cash register opens. And that pot, which is for that community improvement district, is for security, it's for parking. Some of you that go on Main Street, you see little folks picking up things on Main Street. It's because they have a TIF and they have a CID. And so for the first time now, 18th and Vine has a community improvement district on 18th and 19th Street. And the resources and the retail that goes towards that, we're going to put that money in a pot. We'll be able to now have security, like I said, and a few other things. So we're already thinking about this from a forward perspective. We're already thinking about this, not today, but what happens 10 and 15 years from now. So that somebody says, hey, look, whatever Simmons did at that time, we're now standing on his shoulders, trying to move it to the next generation. And so that's really what we have to do. I didn't say that, hey, I used to be a city councilman in Kansas City, proudly representing the 5th district, was there when we cut the ribbon on 18th and Vine back in 1997, 1998. I was on the council. Then it was Mayor Emanuel Cleaver. And so I served on that council then. And so it's special to me to watch that red carpet that I watched in 97, 98 as a council member, and now to come back home and to develop at 18th and Vine. People kind of forget that every once in a while. They think of it only from a monetary standpoint. I'm back home contributing once again to something that's really special that I want to see in my community. So folks, before you say, hey man, it's about the money, before you say, hey, you're just doing X, Y, Z, I have come home. And, in the Bible, from a biblical perspective, some people talk about the prodigal son and how the prodigal son comes home. Well, this time I'm coming home and I'm trying to do something special, because this is what I believe in.
I congratulate you on the success that you've had in all of the other endeavors, city council, working with the state, with Economic Development Corporation. But as we always say in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.